It is my pleasure to talk to you on Mahatma Gandhi's relationship with his favorite city, Bombay, as it was then known. Bombay always remained an important city for Gandhi throughout his life. It was from here that Gandhi initiated his first nationwide Rollict Satyagraha and non-cooperation movement and Quit India movement. In return, Mumbaikars' response to Gandhi's call was overwhelming. Gandhi found many of his trusted colleagues and followers here. He gave the city a sobriquet, Bombay the Beautiful. On one side, this port city was bustling with activities of trade and commerce. This was also the city of entertainment with cinema halls, theaters, Mahalakshmi racecourse, hotels, and nightlife. On the other side, the city came alive with mass political demonstrations, anti-government protests, and movements challenging the British rule. Now I will go through the slides and narrate the stories and incidents covering Rollict Satyagraha, non-cooperation movement, civil disobedience movement, and Quit India in Bombay. In 1915, on the cold morning of January 9, 1915, Gandhi landed in Bombay by steamer SS Arabia with his wife Kasturba and children. At Apollo Bandar, he was given a hero's welcome. Those days, only royalties, viceroys, distinguished people were permitted to disembark at Apollo Bandar. Special permission was taken for Gandhi to land at Apollo Bandar. Along the route, large crowd had gathered to welcome Gandhi and Kasturba. Gandhi was too happy to be back home. He wrote to his nephew Magan Lal Gandhi that he was filled with joy when he saw the coast of Bombay. The series of receptions were held in Bombay to welcome Mr. and Mrs. Gandhi. And from the time onwards, the relationship between Gandhi and people of Bombay were forged. Now we will go to the visuals. Can we have this next slide, please? This is the picture of one such grand reception which was held at J.B. Patit's house at Pedder Road to welcome Gandhis. Over 600 people had been invited to this reception. Among the distinguished guests were Sandhya Mehta, Sir Richard Lamb, Sir Claude Hill, both senior members of the Executive Council of Bombay, Dorab Tata, Muhammad Ali Jinnah, and Sir Dinshaw Bachchan. Sandhya Mehta presided over the meeting. In his speech, he said that there is no need to give introduction of Gandhi. The whole country has heard the tales of his great deeds for the cause of Indians in South Africa. Interestingly, the refreshments that day was served by Messrs. Mojini and Brothers on the beautiful ground of Mr. Patit's bungalow. Can we have the next slide, please? Another noteworthy party was hosted on 14th January by Gurjar Sabha at Mangaldas House at Leamington Road. This is behind Imperial Cinema at Leamington Road to honor Gandhi and Kasturba. The meeting was presided by Muhammad Ali Jinnah, who was the chairman of the Gurjar Sabha. This meeting was important because both Gandhi and Jinnah together for the first time on a public platform were on the first time on the public platform. And Jinnah praised Gandhi for his outstanding work for the causes of Indians in South Africa. He also praised Kasturba for standing by the side of her husband in his great fight. Next slide, please. This is a very rare picture of three great leaders sitting on the same platform, Gandhi, Tilak, and Jinnah. Gandhi is giving a speech. Next to him is Tilak, and next to Tilak is Jinnah. There was a huge meeting. The huge meeting was held at Shantaram Chal in Girgaon in the evening of 16th June 1918 to protest against Governor Wellington's provocative statement against Indian leaders. On June 16th, anti-Wellington demonstrations were organized. The procession started from Chowpatty, went through Girgaon Back Road, CP Tank, Buleshwar, Sheikh Memon Street, Princess Street, Kalba Devi, Cathedral Street, and to the final destination at Shantaram Chowk. The main speakers at the meeting were Gandhi, Tilak, and Jinnah, and M.V. Velka. Around 12,000 people attended the meeting. In fact, to adjust the overflow of people, another meeting was held at the same time at Chainabad, where Horniman presided and Jamnadas Dwarkadas and Lakshmidas Tersi addressed the meeting. Next slide, please. 1919 is a very important year in the history of Bombay. Gandhiji called for the first nationwide satyagraha against Rowlatt Act, which curbed the liberties of the Indians, which curbed the civil liberties of the Indians, and made Bombay his headquarters for the campaign. This advertisement was published in Bombay Chronicle dated 5th April 1915. It says, Black Sunday, great popular demonstration against Black Act. And the program is written below, and I'll describe the programs. Sunday, the 6th April was declared the day of national mourning to protest against the Rowlatt Act. People were asked to fast for 24 hours and take the pledge of civil disobedience. On 6th April, Black Sunday day, long before the sunrise, Chowpatty was filled with people who had gathered to bathe in the sea and listen to Gandhi's speech. Gandhi was one of the first to arrive at Chowpatty with several volunteers. As the day advanced, people kept pouring it on the seashore. Gandhi was joined by Sarojini Naidu, Jamnadas Dwarkadas, Horniman, and others. As Gandhi was unwell, his speech was read by Jamnadas Dwarkadas, and Gandhi appealed to the people to take Swadeshi vow. After the meeting, the people proceeded to Mahatma to offer prayers. The road from Chowpatty to Madhavbagh was filled with people. Another meeting was arranged at an open place in front of Grant Road Mosque, that is Sonepur Masjid. Gandhi appealed to the people to join Satyagraha and called for Hindu-Muslim unity. The ladies' meeting at Chainabad was packed to the capacity. The space was too small to hold the large number of ladies who came to listen to the speeches of Gandhi and Sarojini Naidu. The 6:30 mass meeting at French Bridge, the crowd was so large that it was impossible for the audience to hear the speakers. For the first time, the representative of the British Labour Party, Mr. John Skur, was amongst the crowd. On the evening of 6th April, Sarojini Naidu and Gandhi went out in the car to sell proscribed literature near Opera House, and soon all the copies were sold out. The proceeds of the sale was to be used for the civil disobedience campaign. Passive resistance, or the Black Sunday, was successful. The new era of political agitation had dawned from Bombay. Next slide, please. Next slide. Please wait for a while till we go to the next slide. Yes. On 7th April, the day after Black Sunday, Gandhi published a newspaper, Satyagrahi, in defiance against Indian Press Act. It was published from Mani Bhavan. The paper was the size of half a sheet. Editor was Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi. Address was Lebanon Road, Gamdevi, Bombay. The price of the paper was 1 paise, and Gandhi, being Gandhi, sent a copy of this newspaper to the police commissioner, Mr. Griffith, to notify him that he's defying the Rowlatt Act. Gandhi wanted the paper to reach to as many people as possible. On top of the paper, it was written, please read and circulate amongst the friends. Also, request them to copy and circulate further. Nowadays, we have social media, so with simply click of a button, you can forward the message. Next slide, please. An advertisement of Shuddh Khadi Bhandar, opening ceremony of Shuddh Swadeshi Bhandar. Gandhi inaugurated the first Shuddh Swadeshi Bhandar at Morarji Gokardas Hall on 18th June 1919. The cloth merchants, Vitthal Das Jerajani, was appointed the manager, and Sheikh Narayan Das Parshottam Das donated 10,000 rupees towards the opening of the shop. The large number of people had attended the event Gandhi, in his speech, asked people to wear khadi and promote Indian industry. Bombay became an important site for Gandhi's propagation of Swadeshi and khadi work. Soon, khadi bandars started becoming popular. Gandhi wrote from Mani Bhavan on June 15, 1919, a school for teaching spinning has started from here today. It will work every day from 12 to 3. Charkha centers were open for teaching spinning to the public at Chowpatty, Princess Street, Grant Road, Mandvi, Gamdevi, Girgam, Lalbagh, Buleshwar, Kabutar Khana. Also, the arrangements were made for the manufacture of charkhas at Lalbagh, Kalba Devi Road, Kumbharwada, Khetwadi, Sandhya Road, and Chowpatty. At Mani Bhavan, the women from elite families came over to learn spinning. Gandhi wrote in July 1919, today Lady Tata, Lady Patit, Mrs. Jahangir came over to learn spinning. I don't know how it happens, but women have taken spinning as fish takes to water. The charkha became the symbol of Swaraj. Next slide, please. The headlines of Bombay Chronicle, 1st July 1921. The crore exceeded. Gandhi had crossed the target of ₹1 crore. In June 1920, Gandhi announced the non-cooperation movement will start on August 1st, 1920. Non-cooperation movement was aimed to bring the working of the government to a standstill by not cooperating with the administration through peaceful protest, and like not attending British affiliated colleges, schools, and courts, boycotting British goods, promoting khadi, picketing liquor stores, and renunciating the titles. Unfortunately, on the same day, Bal Gangadhar Tilak died in Bombay. As the news of Tilak's death spread in the city, most of the shops and offices were closed. Large crowds thronged the neighborhood of Sardar Graha, where the body of Tilak was placed for the mourners to pay respect. And the non-cooperation movement merged with the observance of fast, hartal, and funeral procession of Tilak. A year into non-cooperation movement, Gandhi announced to collect ₹1 crore towards Tilak Swaraj Fund by end of 1921. National Week of 1921, that is 6th April to 13th April, was chiefly devoted to collect Tilak Swaraj Fund. To meet the target of 1 crore, Gandhi personally visited various areas like Dadar, Mandvi, Parel, Opera House, Santa Cruz, Borivali, Malad, Bandra, Ghatkopar, and Grant Road. This encouraged people to contribute generously. On the last day of Tilak Swaraj Fund, Bombay witnessed so much enthusiasm. From early morning till late night, there were around 11 meetings for the collection drive. Gandhiji, accompanied by Sarojini Naidu, Ali brothers, Vittalbhai Patel, went to different parts of the city to collect funds. At Borivali, Gandhiji collected 45,000 rupees, at Malad 12,000. Biggest amount collected was at Cotton Greens, where the merchants gave him ₹4 lakhs. The Bombay jewelers pitched a tent in the compound of Pannalal Terrace at Grant Road. Around 10,000 people had gathered to welcome Gandhiji. On behalf of Jewelers Association, Sheikh Gulabchand Devchand presented the sum of ₹2,32,000. Sheikh Gulabchand Devchand also contributed his house, Shanti Bhavan, towards the movement. The most notable collection drive was at Excelsior Theatre, arranged by the Parsis of Bombay. The rousing welcome was given to Gandhi. The theatre was full to the capacity. Admission was by tickets, and the proceeds from it were given to Tilak Swaraj Fund. Mrs. Naidu gave a splendid speech and collected 30,001 on the spot. Gandhi, in his speech, said, during the collection week in Bombay, not a day has passed without a Parsi donation. He said, if Bombay was beautiful, if Bombay was noted for its generosity, if Bombay was noted for its public spirit, it was due to the Parsi community. If it were not for the Parsis, Bombay would be like any other city in India. Parsi priest of Dhobi Talab Agyari also contributed 111 rupees. On behalf of sweetmeat sellers, Govindji Vasanti gave 10,000 rupees. The sweets were offered to Gandhiji in silver dish, and that silver dish was sold in auction. Mill workers of Khatau Makanji also contributed 2,051. Then there were individuals who donated generously, like Jai Narayan Indubai Dani gave 5 lakh in form of a house at Belad Pier, which brought annual income of rupees 48,000 rupees. Proprietor of Swati Hotel in Bhuleshwar gave a day's income to the fund. R.K. Phadke, a well-known sculptor, gave a bust of Tilak at Pannalal Terrace. It was purchased by Maharashtra Congress Committee for rupees 31. Thus, Bombay was the single largest contributor towards Tilak Swaraj Fund. It collected 37.5 lakh rupees for the cause. Gandhi wrote in Young India, Bombay is beautiful for its world-renowned generosity. Next slide, please. The historic meeting inaugurating the Swadeshi campaign with bonfire of foreign clothes was held at Elphinstone Mills compound in Parel near Elphinstone Road Station. Now it is known as Prabhadevi Station. Elphinstone Mill was owned by Gandhi's supporter and a friend, Umar Sobhani. 3 times the bonfire of foreign clothes were held at Elphinstone Mills compound in Parel. The picture here shows the advertisement of the second bonfire, which was held on 9th October. The newspapers reported that the crowd was so large at Elphinstone Mill compound that it was impossible to pass the Elphinstone Bridge, but the crowd was orderly. The people also were requested to attend the meeting dressed in khadi clothes. Congress leaders Sarojini Naidu, Lala Lajpat Rai, Maulana Azad, Umar Sobhani, Rajendra Prasad, who were already present in the city for Congress Working Committee meeting, attended the bonfire. Sarojini Naidu presided over the meeting. In the middle of the compound, a platform was erected for the leaders to sit, and near to it was a pile of finest foreign-made coats, silk saris, shirts, and hats. They were soaked in kerosene, mixed with crackers, and was lit. Gandhi praised the spirit of Bombay by saying, Bombay has laid the foundation for Swadeshi. And to the women, he said, the women of Bombay are awake. Where shall we find women as advanced as in Bombay? Swadeshi movement can make no progress without their support. So profound was his call for khadi that earlier in that day, Gandhi, along with Sarojini Naidu and Lala Lajpat Rai, attended a marriage ceremony of a Parsi couple at Kamabagh, where the bride and the groom and some of the guests were all dressed in khadi. Next slide, please. This is the picture of a salt satyagraha, women manufacturing or making salt on the Sigris. In 1930, Gandhi called for mass civil disobedience movement against salt tax imposed by the British government, known as Salt Satyagraha. On 12th March, Gandhi started his epic march from Sabarmati Ashram in Ahmedabad to Dandi, a small town, a seaside town near Navsari in Gujarat, to break the salt law by making his own salt. In Bombay, civil disobedience or salt satyagraha was inaugurated at Juhu Ville Parla under the leadership of Jamnalal Bajaj. On 6th April, from the bungalow of Jamnalal Bajaj at Juhu Ville Parla, the satyagrahis started with prayers and headed by Jamnalal Bajaj and Kishorilal Mashruwala. They dug a hole in the mud flats at the back of the bungalow to store seawater and made salt by evaporating that water. Later, Kasturba Gandhi and Janki Devi Bajaj also too joined the Satyagraha campaign from Ville Parla Chhavani. In Bombay, the response to the salt satyagraha was record-breaking. Chowpatty, Badala, Ville Parla became the centers to make salt and defy the law. The police would raid the places where illegal salt was being made and break the cigarettes and salt pans. But people would relight the fire and resume making the salt. On the first day of Salt March, the batch of volunteers or satyagrahis gathered at Congress House at Leamington Road at 6:30 a.m. and started to march to Mahalakshmi Seafront or Haji Ali, singing patriotic songs. Mr. K.F. Nariman, who was president of Bombay Pradesh Congress Committee, led the procession carrying Indian flag, followed by Kamala Devi Chattopadhyay and Avantika Bai Gokhale. It took an hour for the procession to reach Haji Ali via Tardev. On the way, people joined the procession with cries of Mahatma Gandhi ki jai. At Haji Ali front, the Congress leaders and the volunteers collected the sea water in buckets, carried it to the nearby Maidan, where they kept the water for boiling on burning sigris and stoves, and as the water evaporated, the salt was formed. On the same evening, a public meeting of 10,000 people was held at Chowpatty to celebrate the Breach of Salt Act. K.F. Nariman declared Mahalakshmi Park, where the salt was prepared, would be henceforth known as Gandhi Swaraj Park. On the terrace of Congress House, the salt pans were constructed to store seawater to make salt. Satyagrahis would go in the batches of 10 from Congress House to seafronts of Chowpatty, Churni Road, Mahalakshmi to fill the seawater in tins or buckets and carried it to the Congress House to make salt. The manufactured salt was then sold on the streets of the city. On 10th April, the women Satyagrahis, under the leadership of Mrs. Perrin Captain, carried the packets of contraband salt from Congress House at Leamington Road and proceeded to Bullion's exchange at Sheikh Memon Street via Girgam Back Road and Buleshwar. On the way, selling packets of salt at fancy prices. Each packet of contraband salt weighed less than 5 tolas. At Bullion Exchange, they auctioned the salt packets and highest bid was rupees 50 for a packet. This way, they collected rupees 700 that day. Same day, Mrs. Kamala Devi Chattopadhyay went to Share Bazaar and sold namak at fancy prices. She succeeded in raising about 4,000 rupees. Next day, Bombay Chronicle published the list of brokers who purchased the salt from her. The raids on Vadala Salt Depot were the most brutal of salt satyagraha in Bombay. On June 1st, nearly 15,000 volunteers raided Vadala salt pans. Many of them were women and children. The crowd broke through the heavy cordon and raided the pans from every direction, collecting bags full of salt from the pans and sold the Indian namak in the trains and trams. And this became their daily activity. On 1st June, the mounted police were called in to control the situation. They kicked and lathi charged the crowd to disperse them. The injured were taken to the hospital and the arrested Satyagrahis were detained in the vacant development chawl at Worli. These chawls had been converted into prison. The mill workers also began to take interest in political activities. The public meetings were arranged for them by Congress committees in the front of the mills and the maidans in the areas of Parel, Dadar, and Prabhadevi. In these mass meetings, the volunteers would explain to workers the political and economic significance of boycott of foreign cloth and evils of drinking habit. The workers attended these meetings in large numbers. Besides breaking the salt laws, people were also offering satyagraha through peaceful protest like picketing of foreign cloth, liquor shops, propagating Swadeshi goods and khadi. During this time, unauthorized news sheets were published and distributed in the city, like Congress Bulletin, Congress Patrika, and Suburban Patrika. And then there were some other news leaflets with sensational names like Flame, Gadar, Harami Angrezia, Bomb, Balidan, Dynamite, etc., to arouse the people against the British government. These illegal news sheets were seized by Paiduni, Esplanade, Princess Street, Leamington Road, and Dongri police stations. The Bombay's response to Salt Satyagraha was record-breaking. Can I have the next slide, please? All-day protest demonstrations in the city. This is 1942. The leaders were arrested during the Quit India movement, and the riots broke out in the city. On August 8, 1942, at AICC session, which was held at Gowala Tank Maidan, Gandhiji launched Quit India movement, asking British to leave India once and for all. In his famous speech to Indians, he said, "Here is a mantra, a short one that I give you. The mantra is do or die." In early morning of August 9, Gandhi, Patel, Nehru, Azad, and other Congress leaders were arrested. G.N. Acharya, a journalist, gave a vivid description of Gandhi's arrest in the early morning of 9th August from Birla House at Mount Pleasant Road. Acharya and the fellow reporters were waiting outside Birla House at the junction of Mount Pleasant Road and Napier Road for the arrest of Gandhi. I'll repeat once again. Acharya and the fellow reporters were waiting outside Birla House at the junction of Mount Pleasant Road and Napier Road for the arrest of Gandhi. Since there was no sign of arrest till early hours, the journalist decided to return back home. Acharya writes, "Hardly we had settled in the waiting taxi when I peered out and sighted a beam of lights coming down Mount Pleasant Road. During the blackout days, only the police cars had such headlights. This was 1942, World War II was going on, and the blackout was declared in the city. Seeing the police cars arriving at Birla House to arrest Gandhi, the waiting journalist jumped out from the moving taxi and ran towards the gates of Birla House in time to witness the beginning of 1942 revolution. With the arrest of all the leaders, there was no one to give directions. People took charge of the movement into their own hands. Riots erupted in the city. Number of crude bombs were exploded. Railway properties were damaged at Dadar, Matunga, Parel, and Marine Line Station. Firing was reported from several parts of the city. Municipal property, street lamps, hydrants were destroyed or damaged. Telephone wires were cut. An electric wire box of BEST and several police chowkis were burnt. As a result, the government issued an order banning public processions and meetings in the city. Curfew was imposed between 7:30 and 6 a.m., 7:30 p.m. and 6 a.m. Further arrest and firing led to more riots. Despite the government orders, large crowd had gathered at Gowalateng Maidan, and young, vibrant Aruna Asaf Ali unfurled the flag, Indian flag, defying the British order. Lathi charge and tear gas was used to dispel the crowd. Students from Wilson, Elphinstone, Sydenham, Ruya, Khalsa, and VJTI colleges took part active part during this movement. They gathered simultaneously at different places and threw stones and soda water bottles at trams, buses, and cars. The highlight of the Quit India movement in Bombay was the underground Congress radio operated by young student Sandhya Mehta and her team. The Congress radio had its own transmitter and a distinct wavelength that gave regular updates of national and international news with its signature call sign. This is Congress radio calling on 42.34 meters from somewhere in India. In 1942, the demonstrations and protests had become quite a regular affair. The women of Bombay actively participated in political activities. Selling pro-Congress literature was prohibited. There is an interesting story of a brave woman to defy police order or selling unauthorized news leaflets. A 70-year-old lady, Manchaben Desai, went to Gamdevi police station and tried to sell the banned leaflet of Vande Mataram to head police constable. She was immediately arrested, and police found 13 more copies of unauthorized Vande Mataram and 4 copies of Congress Patrika in her cloth bag. Should we move ahead? This is the picture of Gandhi and Jinnah talking to the journalist in the veranda of Jinnah House during the Gandhi Jinnah talks in September 1944. In 1944, Gandhi made an effort to solve communal problem through talks and negotiations with Muhammad Ali Jinnah. This famous Gandhi Jinnah talk started on 9 September 44 and continued till 27 September 1944. The talks were held at South Court, residence of Muhammad Ali Jinnah at Mount Pleasant Road in the affluent area of Malabar Hill. Since early morning of 9 September, entire Malabar Hill area was declared protected zone by the police. These talks were the news of the day. The Indian and foreign media representing every major newspapers were all stationed outside Jinnah House to cover the event. However, amidst the serious political scenario, there were lighter moments as well. To kill time, the waiting media outside Jinnah House began betting on what will be the outcome of the meeting and when the meeting will end. In the evenings, the police vigilance was relaxed to allow people to attend prayer meetings of Gandhi. The huge crowd would wait outside Birla House for the evening prayers. On the first day of the talks, Gandhi was informed that the large crowd is waiting for him at the junction of Birla House. And aware of the constraints of the open space, Gandhi asked Mr. Birla and Devdas Gandhi to find an alternate place close by where he can hold large public prayer meetings for the large crowd. At Rumta House was just across Birla House on Nepean Road, and it had a large compound. So it was decided the prayer meeting will be held at compound of Rumta House. After the prayers, Gandhiji would appeal for Harijan Fund in exchange for the autograph, his autograph. Gandhi Jinnah talks lasted for 18 days, but unfortunately, it did not yield any result. Next slide, please. This is the picture of Chowpatty during the immersion of Gandhi's ashes at Arabian Sea. On 30th January 1948, Gandhiji was assassinated in Delhi. One of the urns carrying Gandhi's ashes was brought to Bombay and kept in town hall for the people to pay last homage to their respected leader. On 12th February, more than 5 lakh people joined the procession for the immersion of Gandhi's ashes in Arabian Sea at Chowpatty. At Chowpatty, people were singing Gandhi's favorite bhajans, reading prayers from Gita, Quran, Bible, and Zen Avesta. On that day, all the establishments in the city were closed. Next slide, please. The history of freedom struggle in Bombay is incomplete without the mention of Mani Bhavan. This house, now museum, treasures the memories of Gandhi's association with Bombay. It is a modest 2-storied building on Lebanon Road in Gamdevi. This house belonged to Gandhi's friend Reva Shankar Zaveri, and Gandhi stayed here whenever he visited Bombay during the years 1917 and 1934. It was for those 17 years, this house was the nerve center for Gandhi's activities and movements in the city. It was from here Gandhiji's first learned spinning, first charkha classes were started from here. From Mani Bhavan, Gandhi initiated his first nationwide Rolex Satyagraha in 1919 and non-cooperation movement of 1920. Important national leaders visited Mani Bhavan to meet Gandhiji. Congress working committees meetings were held here. From here, Gandhiji inspired his followers the techniques of non-violence and Satyagraha. From this house, he shaped the destiny of Indian freedom struggle. To conclude, the relationship between Gandhi and Bombay the Beautiful was a special one. Paiduni, Kalba Devi, Bhuleshwar, Girgam, Grant Road, Chowpatty, Azad Maidan, Shantaram Chal, Opera House, Govala Tank Maidan, Parel, Dadar, Matunga were the hubs of Gandhi's political activities. It was in these areas the public meetings were held, funds were collected, hartals happened, trams and buses were stopped, peaceful processions were taken out, Swadeshi was propagated, picketing was done, Prabhat ferries were sung. The women marched bravely holding the Indian flag, challenging the British colonial empire. With the support of people of Bombay, Gandhi shaped the destiny of India. Thank you, Khaki Lab, for inviting me once again.
Thank you so much, Sandhya. That was so enlightening and so wonderful to revisit the long and deep connection that Gandhiji had with the city. As residents of the city, we feel very both delighted and proud, but also as students of, of history, we've learned so much today from your talk. So thank you very much for that. invite any questions that anyone may have about this. You've been very descriptive in narrating so many incidents to us, so thank you very much. Uh, are there any, I know that your family has been associated. Do you have any personal narrative or, a story you can share with us?
Well, not so personal, but I can tell you about my grandfather. He was a revolutionary and he wrote a very expressive book, How to Make Bombs. And for that, he was expelled from the British, from India. The other colonies, the Dutch, the French, and Portuguese did not give him asylum. And the German East Africa gave him the asylum, and he settled there till he completed his term. He learned German and he went to Shantiniketan as a professor of German language. And later he joined Gandhiji for his salt satyagraha. And that's a story of a revolutionary becoming a non-violent and joining Gandhi.
And joining Gandhi. How amazing is that? Okay, so you've got a lot of compliments for your talk from people across the country. Mridula says it's an excellent presentation. And Rosanna says that she's listening from Kerala and loved it. And thank you for the slides. It's a beautiful presentation, as does Kala Devi. Amit Bhatt has a question. Curious to know whether Bapu stayed in Juhu as well.
Well, yes, he did stay in Juhu at a bungalow of Shanti Kumar Murarji or Sumati Murarji. And that is somewhere at present, it is not there. The new apartment has come up. It is somewhere opposite Hare Krishna temple in Juhu.
The ISKCON temple. Okay. Oh, all right. If there are there any more questions? Yes, you're right. Susan says that Bombay played an important role in the freedom struggle and in Gandhiji's freedom struggle as well. And that's what you narrated so beautifully today, Sandhya.
So that is what I wanted to tell the audience, that Bombay always, it was very motivating. It was the fundraiser and people supported the movement. And I especially narrated the places so people can relate to it. It was not just one place it happened. It was all over Bombay,
all over the city.
All over Mumbai or Bombay. No, it was known as then. And it was amazing how people contributed to the funds. And these funds were later sent for the constructive work, used for the constructive work.
Right. Rosanna has a question. When he first tried being a lawyer in Bombay, he didn't succeed. And then he traveled to South Africa. Is there anything from that phase that's worth remembering?
Well, when he was doing his practice in Bombay, that time, something I can tell you is he stayed somewhere near Marine Lines. But later on, the house was too small and his son was not well. So he hired a bungalow at Santa Cruz. And every day he would travel from Santa Cruz to Fort by train. Otherwise, he would walk it down. When he was at Marine Lines, he would walk it down from Marine Lines to Fountain.
Remarkably far for that time. Obviously, there's an interesting question from Govind, from Susan, saying, why don't these facts ever make it, about both Gandhi and Bombay, make it into school textbooks? I guess local history is something that we miss out in our boards.
Yes, of course. I feel we have missed out. I'm a history student and I knew Rowlatt had happened, but I never knew so much it happened in Bombay city. the movements happen, but Bombay is never mentioned in the history books. You know, the role, so much, the important role Bombay city played in the freedom struggle, it's not so much mentioned in the history books, which I feel it should be, because it's a very important city. And during the initial struggle of freedom movement. Any more questions? I hope you all enjoyed the talk, and whenever you all visit these places, do remember that this city was active during the freedom struggle. We still go around the old town of Kalba Devi and Buleshwar, never realizing these were so active during the freedom struggle. The trams were burned, the people were violent, the curfews were called. So it was really very, very alive and active at that time.
Hello, excuse me, sir.
Right.
Hello.
Right.
Hello.
So I think, yeah. So if there are no more questions, sorry, there is a question from Govind. He wants to know if you have any idea whether SIPLA was inaugurated by Gandhiji.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Whether SIPLA was inaugurated by Gandhiji.
I have heard of it, that it was, but I don't have the written document with me, so I cannot verify.
Confirmed.
But yes, I have heard about it, yes. Maybe SIPLA archives will know. They have archives. SIPLA archives will know.
Right. I think many people who visited Mani Bhavan, including how Krishna Raj is mentioning, are reliving our experience from Mani Bhavan and our engagement and interaction there. Thank you so much, and we will encourage everyone to come back, like you said, to Mani Bhavan and have a look and bring friends and family there. Thank you so much for that. There is another question, I'm sorry, from Mahendra. He wants to know whether you have anything to say about Azad Kranti Maidan. Azad Maidan.
Azad Maidan?
Or Kranti Maidan.
August Kranti Maidan.
August Kranti Maidan.
August Kranti Maidan is Gowala Tank, was Gowala Tank, now named August Kranti Maidan because of the 1942 Quit India movement. The movement happened there. The Congress Working Committee, Congress session was held there, where all the major leaders of India attended. And the resolution, Quit India resolution, was passed, and the next day, very next day, the leaders were arrested. So this is the importance of August Kranti Maidan or a Gowala Tank Maidan.
Okay, I don't see another question coming. So I'm going to conclude the session here. Thank you so much, Sandhya, for joining us. And thank you for a lovely audience for being with us Saturday after Saturday. Thank you all, and see you again next week.
Thank you. Thank you.